I will now recognize Honorable Thambo.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Maybe let me begin by extending my apologies if I sound a bit irritable. I woke up this morning to a report that the public protector will be investigating matters relating to the Minister of Police, Senzo Mkho. I find it extremely disturbing because that institution has become one that justifies criminality. I want to urge the Honorable Zungula to go and withdraw his complaint because the outcome there is going to delegitimize that entire process. So I want us to at least speak to that. Chairperson, the Economic Freedom Fighters unequivocally rejects this proposed budget as it represents a persistent and systemic failure to close the digital divide and uphold access to information, which is a fundamental human right. I want to first begin by addressing the well-intentioned but misguided interpretation of the Money Bills Act. And the Honorable Kusela will remember we always have debates about this as it relates to the VAT process. So there is no preconditional support of a budget that is applicable. So you can't say that we are supporting a budget, whether it be the fiscal framework and revenue proposals or the division of revenue bill or the appropriations bill, with the assumption that the conditional support will be applied, because you won't have any recourse when that conditional support is not followed through. So I want to urge that this committee must not approach it in that manner. It is a well-meaning intended interpretation of the Money Bills Act, but it is one that is not going to follow through. And this relates to the non-alignment of the annual performance targets and the strategic plans. So it's the same logic that was used during the support of the fiscal framework process in terms of the second iteration of it, which contained the VAT increases. And I want us to not do the same process as well here. One of my particular concerns is that the conditional support of the budget vote is misaligned and misplaced because it applies to also with regards to the equity equivalent investment programs, as these are governed by legislation which is regulated by the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition, not the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies. On top of this, there's a commitment to create 20,000 jobs in the digital economy program, but no indication as to how these will be done over the medium term and how it relates to the target of 150,000 jobs, which is outlined in the strategic 5-year plan. The misplacement of a target regarding the equity equivalent programs may not be a coincidence, but forms part of what we think is the mischief we have been dealing with in the committee, where there's a proposed alignment of the Electronic Communications Act and the ICT sector code to allow for foreign satellite companies to subvert the ECA and 30% local ownership mandates using equity equivalents. This is a proposal we've objected to because the so-called alignment would require an amendment to legislation, and this cannot be achieved through a ministerial policy directive. In our view, this is all in service of allowing Starlink to operate in South Africa, and we must state that we will never allow Starlink, which was weaponized misinformation and capture of the White House, to erode US and South Africa's diplomatic relations in order to ease business access in South Africa. We view that as economic and diplomatic terrorism, and any company, even if Starlink were to meet equity equivalent requirements, there's a security threat that it poses that it must never be allowed to operate in South Africa, and we will never allow it to do so. Chairperson, now that we have dealt with legislative mischief, I want to address bread and butter issues affecting our people. The cost of data is not only expensive, but its existence as a perishable commodity in the hands of our people contributes to the violation of a human right to access to information. Considering that this has been a prominent conversation in society and that there's been a commitment to cut data costs but to no avail, and considering that the budget is part of affordable connectivity, and that this is not considered in this budget as part of affordable connectivity, is alarming. This budget should have developed a strategic plan to establish a state-owned telecommunications company which would be afforded the adequate amount of spectrum to ensure our people have connectivity. The major telecommunications companies met with us as a committee and spent their time rationalizing as a matter of profit the expiry of data and airtime, spend their time avoiding explaining how they operate as financial service providers who sell funeral policies and life insurance, and avoiding the collusion between themselves and the regulator ICASA, where there's a revolving door between board members of ICASA and employment opportunities at mobile network operators. The commitment to profit maximization should have been an indication that we do not have sovereign control of the telecommunications sector, and we're at the mercy of companies who dictate when and how we use our data and airtime. Any budget that does not plan to remove our nation away from the dependency from MTN, Vodacom, Cell C is not worth the paper that it is written on. We had an auction of spectrum in 2022, and predictably, MTN and Vodacom, due to their financial muscle, dominated the acquisition of spectrum, meaning less competition to them and continued high prices of data. To then allocate 102 million for licensing in 2025-2026 through an auction process is an exercise in futility, because the same giants will dominate that auction process and maintain poor quality of services and high costs of data. The quality of service is appalling. In places like Matatiela, Leboachoma, Zeerust, Pongola, our parents must literally climb mountains to call their grandchildren who are at universities and schools. If school children want to study, they must wait until midnight and 5 a.m. to be able to study, because data is restricted to usage during those times. You cannot build a digitally inclusive society while relying solely on private sector control of telecommunications, and even worse, seeking to introduce entities such as Starlink, which leverage political disagreements to enter domestic markets while not complying with our laws. The chronic underinvestment in modernizing the SABC is disgraceful. The deteriorating Auckland Park building symbolizes the broader crisis. Low staff morale due to poor pay, stagnating creativity from a lack of strategic project funding, and the absence of innovation once seen, which created productions such as Yizo Yizo, Gazlam, Zone 14, Home Affairs, and many other compelling productions. The SABC lacks coherent funding model, and this is deeply troubling. The allocation of 7.8 billion on its own to the department is laughable and reflective of how this government lacks an appreciation of the role of the digital economy in modernization and job creation. So we therefore cannot in good conscience support this budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I will now recognize Honorable Langa.
Thank you very much, Most Honorable House Chairperson. And greetings to the Minister, Deputy Minister, Department Leadership, Entities Leadership, Honorable Members, and fellow South Africans. Honorable House Chair, the IFP acknowledges this budget vote and emphasizes that in today's fast-changing world, access to reliable, affordable, and secure communication is not a privilege, but a constitutional and developmental necessity, as it underpins service delivery, education, economic participation, and even the exercise of democratic rights. The IFP remains deeply concerned that millions of South Africans, particularly in rural and township areas, continue to be excluded from meaningful participation in the digital economy. In this regard, the IFP welcomes the continued rollout of the South Africa Connect project. However, this must translate into tangible benefits for ordinary citizens, not merely infrastructure statistics. The IFP is equally concerned about the persistent operational and financial challenges facing the South African Post Office. While SAPO remains a critical instrument for inclusive service delivery, especially in rural areas, the lack of viable commercial recovery strategy threatens its long-term sustainability. The IFP supports the finalization and implementation of the Post Office of Tomorrow strategy and calls on the department to ensure that SAPO branches are adequately resourced, digitized, and repurposed as government service hubs. This includes ensuring the functionality of all retained branches and enabling SAPO to deliver citizen-centric services. Revenue diversification, digital integration with Postbank, and consistent reporting on infrastructure investment must be prioritized. The future of SAPO must reflect both financial viability and its essential social mandate. The IFP welcomes the department's strategic emphasis on building a capable, ethical, and developmental state. This includes expanding broadband access, promoting digital skills development, and supporting the growth of the local ICT sector, especially youth and women-led SMMEs. We believe these goals must now be backed by measurable implementation targets and consistent leadership. We take note of Centec's steady revenue growth with projected earnings of 5.6 billion over the MTEF period. However, a rise in costs, exchange rate volatility, and weak operation margins present risks. Similarly, the SABC's digital strategy and its goal to reaching over 1 million users of SABC Plus by 2027-28 is ambitious, but long-term sustainability demands urgent resolution of the broadcaster's funding model and its public mandate. Honorable House Chair, it is critical that the department champions a cohesive national vision and ensure South Africa is positioned as a globally competitive digital nation. A practical, future-proof ICT system is the backbone of any modern economy. The IFP urges the department to provide the regulatory certainty and investment, friendly environment needed to unlock innovation, bridge inequality, and promote access for all. In the light of the matters raised above, the IFP supports this budget vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I will now recognize Honorable Hendricks.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable the Minister, DM, and Honorable members of the House, not forgetting my patriotic fellow South Africans. Good morning. The Patriotic Alliance South Africa, the Patriotic Alliance support budget vote 30 for the Department of Communication and Digital Technology. However, our support is not a blank check. It comes with a firm call for urgent reforms, clear accountability, and a bold commitment to positioning South Africa as a leader in the global digital economy. Digital transformation in education. If we are serious about the fourth industrial revolution, we must begin where it matters most, in our schools. We call for the integration of artificial intelligence into the curriculum. AI is more than automation. It is a transformative tool that can reshape education, health, and public safety. In education, AI can personalize learning, identify learning gaps, and deliver targeted support. In healthcare, AI-powered diagnostics can help detect diseases early and reduce on our public health system. In public safety, predictive policing and smart surveillance can assist in addressing crime, a crisis our community knows too well. We are calling for Wi-Fi hotspots in informal settlements, rural areas, and township schools. This is not charity, it is a restorative justice. Let us not delay Vision 2030, demand an inclusive, skilled, and innovative economy. We cannot achieve this if our learners are left behind in outdated systems. Support for SMMEs and inclusive job creations. Minister, we also welcome the 5-year plan to create 150,000 jobs in digital economy. But these jobs must be inclusive. Africans, coloreds, Indians, and whites. Every South African must benefit equally. Globally, nations have built strong digital economies by investing in youth and small businesses. They've reclaimed water, launched tech hubs, and trained young people in areas like cybersecurity, AI, and green technology. We ask why not here? The Patriotic Alliance will advocate for innovation hubs in every province, coding bootcamps, skills in device repairs and broadband installations, smart agricultural and low-cost water tech. We must empower youth. We must empower youth to become builders, not bystanders. Language inclusion and digital heritage. The digital economy must also reflect our culture, our cultural diversity. We insist that the department recognize and support Afrikaans in digital content and broadcasting. En hulle eie taal, laat die mense praat. Cybersecurity and digital sovereignty. In the digital age, data is a new gold. South Africa must protect its digital infrastructure. We urge government to work with skilled, reputable companies to build and secure our servers. Data breaches are not just IT issues, they are economic threats. Finally, this budget must be spent transparently, efficiently, and ethically. Corruption cannot be tolerated, not in the department, not in any. Strong oversight and consequent management are not optional. They are essential. Conclusion, Honorable Chairperson, this budget is more than numbers. It's a blueprint of our digital future. Let us embrace AI, enforce accountability, support SMMEs, Minister, protect our data, uproot corruption. The time for talk is over. The time for action is now.
Thank
The
you,
Patriotic
Honorable
Alliance
Hendricks.
support the budget, but we will be watching.
Thank you. I will now recognize Honorable Tenor.
House Chairperson, universal access to digital technologies is crucial to enable South Africans to engage in work and social interactions, to access government and other services, to participate in economic activities, and to exercise accountability over those in positions of power. Access to digital technologies also play an important role in safety and security and the protection and promotion of the well-being of all. Historically, however, this department and its entities has failed in as far as these goals and mandates are concerned, and we are all knowledgeable about that. The absolute lack of political will, blatant fraud and corruption, a flagrant abuse of state resources, labor unrest, resources and funding constraints, and a shameless lack of proper management or even mismanagement has systematically denied the people of South Africa the right to be informed, to participate, to contribute, and to assert themselves in a technological age. The proven lack of consequence management for irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure, as identified by the Auditor General in previous financial years, is but one example, and we need to see better, Minister. Chair, my time is limited, so I will only touch on a few aspects. Since a lot has been said about the South African Post Office already, I will start with CETA. What is going on at CETA, Chair? CETA's mandate is to improve service delivery to the public through provision of information technology, information systems, and related services, and to promote the efficiency of the state departments and public bodies using their services. Yet, exactly the opposite seems to be happening. Department after department appears before committees of this House, and those members of us who attend our portfolio committees will know this, lamenting CETA's poor performance and inability to deliver on its mandate. Instead of enabling proper service delivery and simplifying processes, CETA hampers and frustrates it. An entire rethink is necessary here. Voorsitter, die SABC is miljoene mense in ons land se enigste middel van toegang tot kennis en inligting. En kennis is mag, maar konstante en deurlopende probleme by die SABC ontmagtig as ware die mense van Suid-Afrika en maak inbraak op van ons mees fundamentele regte soos ons taalregte. Afrikaans is die derde mees gesproke taal in Suid-Afrika, tog kan die SABC nie Afrikaanse kykers die nodige respek betoon deur net die Afrikaanse nuusbulletin byvoorbeeld in 'n vaste tyd geleef op 'n redelike tyd soos wat dit vir jare was, soos altyd uit te saai nie. Dan kla die SABC oor taanende advertensieinkomste, maar watter adverteerder wat 'n spesifieke teikenmark deur 'n spesifieke medium wil bereik, sal belê in advertensies by 'n instansie wat sy bes doen om juist daardie spesifieke teikenmark te vervreem en weg te jaag. En hoekom is die vraag wat ons moet vra, doen die SABC dit? Hierdie departement en sy entiteite is van kardinale belang vir ekonomiese vooruitgang en werkskepping in Suid-Afrika. Die twee belangrikste doelwitte wat gevolg sal gee tot verligting op alle ander gebiede. Daarom mag dit nie misluk nie. Die 7.8 miljard rand begroting moet op die regte prioriteite bestee word. Deurdagte besluite gebaseer op goeie besigheidsbeginsels en nie kosmetiese teikens nie, moet geneem word en uitgevoer word, vry van politiekery, geuite politieke ideologieë, bedrog en korrupsie. Minister, u het nie 'n maklike werk nie. Dis nie maklik om die verval te stop en iets wat oor die verloop van 30 jaar aktief en sistematies afgebreek, misbruik en besteel is nie. Daadwerklike optrede is nodig. Minder praat, meer doen om werklike verandering en sukses te verseker. Ek dank u, voorsitter.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker will be from Action SA, Honourable Kobe. Thank you.
Ke a leboga modulasetulo ke Kobe. Ke rata go dumedisa tona ya kgoro Ntate Malatsi, ke re motlatsa tona yena Ntate Gungubele, ke a ba dumedisa maloloko ka moka parlamenteng, ke a le dumedisa ba Afrika Borwa, ke re thobela. Honorable House Chair, South Africa stands on a precipice of digital transformation, a shift that, if steered correctly, could redefine opportunity, service delivery, and national competitiveness. Budget Vote 30 presents a bold and necessary vision to bridge the digital divide, stimulate economic growth, and modernize our state institutions. Action SA acknowledges the Department of Communication and Digital Technologies alignment with the NDP 2030 and priorities of the 7th administration, including inclusive growth, reducing poverty, and rebuilding a capable and ethical state. The strategic pillars, from expanding broad-based access to developing digital skills and ensuring cybersecurity, are comprehensive and commendable. We particularly welcome the department's stated commitment to empowering SMMEs, increasing 5G and fiber connectivity, reducing data costs, and focusing on digital inclusion in underserved areas. If implemented effectively, these plans could contribute meaningfully to bridging South Africa's deepening digital divide. However, House Chair, we cannot ignore the serious and repeated concerns raised by the Portfolio Committee, concerns that cast significant doubt on the department's capacity to deliver on its ambitions. The department's track record is troubling, with chronic underperformance, 4,000 schools still disconnected since 2015, yet targets for 50,000 schools are claimed. Key legislative reforms such as the Electronic Communications Act and SABC bill have been delayed for years, and unfunded mandates, including the critical SA Connect program, which President has publicly committed to, still lacks adequate budget allocation. The failure to ensure policy certainty leaves regulators like ICASA unable to act decisively, and ineffective oversight of entities such as CETA, South African Post Office, USASA continue to hemorrhage public funds with little consequence of the reform. The department's targets are vague, unmeasurable, and misaligned with its annual performance plan. There remains no clear path to implementation, no credible accountability mechanisms, and no assurance that digital transformation won't continue to be delayed by litigation, leadership churn, and infrastructural failure. Chairperson, Action SA recognizes the urgency of digital transformation, but we remain deeply concerned that the department is not structurally or financially equipped to meet the demands of this critical portfolio. Minister, even your own GNU partners do not believe you are taking them anywhere. Therefore, we reserve our position to Budget Vote 30 at this time. Our final decision will hinge on a credible commitment from the department to implement overdue policy reforms, ensure better governance, and address chronic failures that have long plagued the sector. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker will be the Honourable Deputy Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies. Thank you, Honourable.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. House Chairperson, the Minister of Communication and Digital Technology, Minister Swelo Malatsi, Chairperson of Portfolio Committee, Honourable Kusela Sangoni and the Portfolio Committee in general, Honourable Members, the Director General, Ms. Nonkubela, Jordan Khan, and leadership of the DCDT, entities, ladies and gentlemen, Mulwe. The department is on course towards a connected and a digitally transformed society. Over a year ago, we presented the department's efforts towards fulfilling the 7th administration's key priority programs. The department remains committed to fulfilling its mandate of enabling a connected and digital transformed country, building on achievement and work done over the past 30 years of this democratic dispensation. As we celebrate 70 years since the adoption of the Freedom Charter, a cornerstone document of our democratic constitution that espouses the vision of a united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic and prosperous country, we aim to harness the power of technology and telecommunication to transform our country to one that is economically inclusive and at the cutting edge of the digital transformation. In the President's 2025 State of the Nation address, His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa emphasized, open quote, to create jobs, we must leverage our unique strength in our unrealized potential to build the industries of the future, which are green manufacturing, renewable energy, electric vehicles, and the digital economy. It's no surprise, therefore, that this sector has been put under the Vulindlela chapter. Honorable Chairperson, as we present this budget vote, we must first congratulate telecom for their phenomenal performance for the year ended 31st March 2025. The government, as a 40.5% shareholder, received more than R500 million in dividends. This is a critical showing of how public-private partnership can be beneficial for the growth of the economy. Congratulations to ESCOM. Artificial intelligence is one of the defining opportunities of our generation. Globally, AI is shaping economies, disrupting industries, and accelerating change at an unprecedented pace. It is a field marked by intense global competition, rapid innovation, and profound implications for how society are organized. For South Africa, it holds the promise of transformation that is inclusive, empowering, and distinctly African. This is why in this financial year, we will be finalizing the National Artificial Intelligence Policy, which will be submitted to Cabinet for approval, and implementation will commence thereafter. Honorable Chairperson, the acceleration of digital transformation across South Africa's public and private sectors continues to bring unprecedented opportunities and increasing levels of cyber risks. As we deepen our reliance on digital infrastructure for essential services, the resilience of our cyberspace becomes critical to national security, economic stability, and societal well-being. In the 2025-26 budget, the department, through the Cybersecurity Hub, has set ambitious targets to develop a national threat platform and launch a national awareness portal, while continuing to mature the Cybersecurity Hub. Honorable Chair, access to digital connectivity, affordable gadgets, and lower data costs alone will not result in our desired outcomes of universal meaningful connectivity if they are not backed by the requisite digital skills. On focus for this financial year will include, amongst others, training 30,000 government employees in digital literacy, cybersecurity awareness, and artificial intelligence fluency. This will be done, Honorable Chair, through strategic partnership between the department, NEMISA, the National School of Governments, DPSA, and industry players like Microsoft, AWC, and Google. We will be embarking on curriculum interventions in partnership with the Department of Basic Education to drive wide-scale delivery of digital literacy, coding, and robotics for schools, including targeted training of teachers, prioritizing rural schools. I thought, Member Ngubane, when he was speaking about our area, I didn't know why he didn't say Alfred, so Madimule, Kokstad, and also mention those where he says no one has seen any connection. We intend on training 12,000 SMMEs in digital entrepreneurship, aimed at transforming formal and informal businesses to embrace e-commerce practices, digital marketing, and online transactions. Finally, in an initial cohort of 20,000 beneficiaries, will be trained in content creation and earning true content creation opportunities. This is the space in which digital skills dovetail with the creative media skills. Honorable Chair, in our quest to build a capable and ethical and developmental state, we have been hard at work since 2023 to ensure that vacancies departmentally and within our entities are filled with capable and ethical men and women. I am happy to report that, with the exception of SITA and SAPO, where recruitment processes are at an advanced stage, All our entities have fully constituted boards which are hard at work to fulfill their mandates. As we pursue the business of rescuing SAPO, Chair, we are beginning to see flickers of light at the end of the tunnel. Our faith in this national asset with unparalleled reach has yielded some positive development, which is why this financial year corporate plan outlines a forward-looking vision grounded in 5 strategic objectives, aiming to improve service delivery, diversify revenue, strengthen governance, forge strategic partnership, and manage a seamless transition of business rescue, which is imminent. Through these priorities, SAPO will become a central enabler of economic and digital inclusion in South Africa. By leveraging its national footprints and strategic partnership, SAPO aims to become key channel for delivering government and commercial services to underserved areas, making it a cornerstone of inclusive economic and digital participation in our country. We look forward to see SAPO thrive. Honorable Chair, we are proud of the significant progress Postbank has achieved in the past 2 years. This includes successfully addressing the condition in the South African Reserve Bank variation notice, transitioning from 3 consecutive years of disclaimer audit opinions to a qualified audit, and the appointment of full complement of the executive and board members. This bank has also maintained consistent and reliable customer service, particularly for its SASSA beneficiaries, with no payment interruptions since the infamous technical glitch of September 2023. These milestones, Honorable Chair, position Postbank well on its path towards becoming a fully fledged commercial state bank. Postbank will continue investing in modernized technology and infrastructure to ensure it becomes a reliable provider for world-class core banking solutions. Honorable members, as Nelson Mandela once said, open quote, safety and security don't happen. They are the result of collective consensus and public investment. We owe our children, the most vulnerable citizen in our society, a life free of violence, close quote. The Film and Publication Board achieved notable progress in regulating media content and protecting vulnerable populations. The FPB analyzed over 200,000 images which contained child sexual abuse material, and through its intervention, some of the cases reported are now within the court system. The newly launched WhatsApp hotline and channel saw the organization resolving 33 out of 40 public complaints, which included addressing issues like revenge porn within 60 days. In this financial year, FPB aims to strengthen its efforts in child protection and digital transformation. It will continue partnering with law enforcement to prosecute CSAM, which is child sexual abuse material cases, and
Thank you,
enhance.
Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister. Your time has expired. Thank you very much. The next speaker will be from ACDP, Honorable Fring. Thank you.
Honorable House Chairperson, the ACDP notes this department's budget of some 3.9 billion rand for the current financial year, with 1.6 billion allocated for transfers and subsidies to ICT enterprise development and state-owned enterprise oversight, including 1.6 billion for phase 2 of the South Africa Connect project to expand broad-based access. We welcome the improvements made at the SABC, and while the Film and Publication Board has been commended for its online monitoring of the 2024 elections, and some progress has been made at Postbank, reducing fraud by 80%, we must ask whether this department is empowering South Africans through communication excellence or merely digitizing dysfunction. The ACDP has previously cautioned for the department to be unambiguous in its mandate to engage citizens in ways that enable informed decisions and hence improve lives. Yet, the Auditor General continues to flag irregular expenditure, weak internal controls, and contract mismanagement. There are investigations currently by the Public Protector into allegations of board infighting, mismanagement, and lapses in accountability and decision-making at the State Information Technology Agency. The 1.2 billion rand Western Cape Education Department alleged tender irregularity flagged for investigation by the SIU and other legal battles are draining the fiscus in the digital migration process. Additionally, the high staff turnover at executive level and governance and operational inefficiencies have led some government departments to consider applying for exemption from using CETA as their preferred partner for the delivery of IT solutions. Now, while exemptions may offer some short-term relief, they risk fragmenting the public sector IT infrastructure and undermining the very reforms needed to restore trust in the State Information Technology Agency. We agree that Parliament must urgently prioritize the inquiry into CETA's governance failures, ensuring transparent board appointments and enforcing accountability for tenders. The ACDP asserts that digital transformation must not come at the cost of transparency. The department's ambitious roadmap for digital governance must be matched by robust cybersecurity, ethical AI governance, and meaningful public participation. As kingdom builders, the ACDP cautions that this department's ambitious roadmap for digital government must be matched with integrity and not just innovation. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I'm going to go through the list of parties, and if you are in the House, just indicate. The next speaker should be from the UDM. Rise. Anyone from BOSA? ATM? Al Jamal? NCC? PAC, the Honourable Minister of Land Reform and Rural Development? UAT? Good. We'll move on to the DA, Honourable Bodlani. Thank you, Honourable Member.
Thank you, House Chairperson, Honourable Minister, fellow South Africans, Baholo Dumelang. Minister, malatsi a year ago, South Africans delivered a clear mandate that they were tired of stagnation and demanded a government that works for them. Minister, you only have one job, and that job is to rescue South Africa. As alluded by the chairperson of this portfolio committee, Uslalo Othandegayo, this department has had budgets approved over many years, yet the lack of political will to put South Africa first has brought us to this point, with an outdated legislation as the biggest reason for this stagnation. Setting up a clear vision for the sector now lies in your capable shoulders, and today you have set this out in this budget. We trust you, Minister, to use your executive authority to rewrite the history of this important service delivery department. Your mission in this department is to ensure that South Africans have accessible and affordable connectivity, that government IT services work effectively, and that South Africa is well positioned for economic growth and job creation through the fourth industrial revolution. Allow me to break down this mission, Minister. On ensuring accessible community, the sad state of our country is that a reported 3 million young people aged between 15 and 25 are not in education, not in employment, or not in training. This paints a dire picture for our future. It should be the role of this department to ensure that a child born in the dusty streets of Soweto, like myself, will have the same opportunity to access the internet and its benefit, just as any other child born into opportunity. In our society, the circumstances of our births must not and should never determine our future. but instead the hunger for one's success should. Our promise to create an equal opportunity society must be kept, Minister. The DA welcomes that the department has a major agenda reform ahead. The department has various entities with overlapping mandates. This wastes money, wastes taxpayers' funds, and indeed undermines productivity. The measure of the BBI and Centec have been on the agenda since the previous administration. Something must happen, something must give. There is now political consensus on this, that their measure to create a state infrastructure agency must proceed without delay. In merging BBI and Centec, the department can consolidate its resources in building infrastructure projects. This will mean better ICT infrastructure for South Africans across the country. The duplication of these entities has slowed down the infrastructure building while costing South Africans more money. In addition, a viable funding model for the South African Broadcasting Corporation must be achieved. We call for a resolution on the SABC bill so that we can proceed with this effort to give clarity on the financial situation of the state broadcaster. The success of the SABC will remain meaningless if South Africans are not able to access the SABC and get credible information. With the rise of mis and disinformation, it is more important that the SABC fills this gap. And this is not a constitutional imperative, but something that will strengthen our democracy. Per the State of the Nation address, where President promised South Africans better working government services, the minister has already started the implementation of this effort. The relaxation of SITA regulations to allow government departments to directly procure ICT services will go a long way in ensuring that days where citizens were turned back from government services because the system is offline are over. These regulations will see government departments operating optimally to provide benefits to citizens who normally spend their hard-earned money on transport to access government services to be told the system is offline. So we thank you, Minister, because no more system is offline. Further, we cannot succeed in creating a digitally industrialized economy if our regulations stifle market competition. A prominent example is BEE regulations. We welcome the draft regulations introduced by Minister Malatsi on equity equivalent investment programs to address this shortcoming. This will allow investors an additional pathway to market access into South Africa through making social investments without sacrificing at least 30% of their ownership. All South Africans deserve affordable high-speed internet. One's geography should not determine that. The insistence by members of the committee that this is done to accommodate one company speaks to your narrow worldview and your practices, where your organizations are known to tailor-make specifications to suit preferred persons or companies. We do not operate like that. Minister, Minister, the work of the Film and Publication Board is really understated. The world around has become more digitized. We need to protect children from harmful, inappropriate content. Streaming services, which are the future of entertainment, remain unregulated in our country, leaving a large gap. This requires our collective and urgent attention. Over a year, while considerable work has been achieved, there remains pressing challenges, namely the post office and the post bank. We remain concerned about the future of post office and we also acknowledge that a delicate balance between public need and state resources must be struck. The fiscus has completely run out of funds for bailouts, while the need for accessible postal services remain. We trust that the working group that the minister has created with the National Treasury will secure a viable future for the post office through private-public partnerships. We welcome the reported exit of the business rescue practitioners as post bank.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Your time has expired.
Support the budget.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker will be from the ANC, Honourable Subrati. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Honourable Chairperson, let me follow the protocol of members who have come before me and greet everyone in the House, greet fellow South Africans. Assalamu alaikum, good morning, and Sanbonani. Honourable House Chair, I've had the opportunity, like many of us, to attend various budget vote debates in the past 10 days. And some of them were headed by departments headed by GNU ministers from Good, from Cocter, and from DA. And I couldn't but help appreciate and notice the collegiality between the ministers, the deputy ministers, the departments, and members of the portfolio committee. And Chairperson, House Chair, as we reflect on this critical budget vote debate, we must confront the harsh reality that in this House, under the DA Minister, our communication department has become a battleground and an area of contention between those who seek transformation and those who are determined to maintain the status quo of exclusion. The ANC's vision of a digitally inclusive South Africa where every citizen has equal access to opportunities under the digital economy stands in stark contrast to the DA's agenda of protecting monopoly interests and foreign corporations at the expense of Black economic empowerment. Today, House Chair, we must confront how the DA, through Minister Malatsi's leadership, has systematically undermined transformation efforts whilst presenting itself as a champion for progress. Before we confront the shortfall of the minister in this 7th administration, let us reflect and go back to what the ANC had achieved when it had overseen the 6th administration of this Department of Communications. Under the ANC's leadership, 1.8 million households were connected to broadband, which was a historic leap in closing the digital divide. On top of that, Honorable House Chairperson, 5 million citizens were equipped with digital skills, empowering a new generation for jobs in the future. And I have the research, you can access it from me. Additionally, the digitization of over 136 e-government services has revolutionized service delivery, earning global recognition as South Africa climbed 25 places from 65 to 40 in the United Nations e-government United Nations e-government index 2024. The SA Connect program expanded internet access to rural and underserved areas, whilst digital broadcasting migration provided 1.3 million indigent households with subsidized decoders and supported 1,279 installation companies. On the policy side, we amended the Post Bank Bill, the South African Post Office Bill, as well as we introduced the draft SABC Bill. Honorable Chairperson, it's important to understand the journey we have walked to this point. We are seeing regression in the current administration. The minister's silence on leveraging Postbank's infrastructure to establish a state bank is a glaring omission in the department's transformative agenda. A state bank is not just a financial institution, but it is a critical tool for economic inclusion, particularly for marginalized communities that remained underserved by commercial banks. The ANC has long championed the creation of a state bank to democratize access to credit and to stimulate grassroots economic development. The minister's reluctance to advance this initiative reveals a deeper ideological resistance to state-led interventions that challenge entrenched monopolies. Postbank's existence infrastructure provides a ready-made foundation for this venture. South African Post Office. The minister's failure to articulate concrete plans for SAPO's financial turnaround and operational efficiency, Chairperson, is deeply concerning. The entity could play a pivotal role in e-commerce, in digital financial services, and in the last mile delivery. Yet, the minister's plans lack bold reforms to unlock these opportunities. Instead of proactive measures we see regressive targets and a passive approach to SAPO's collapse, which disproportionately affects township communities and rural communities who require its services. Chairperson, the
SABC's alarming 85% license fee non-compliance rate has pushed the public broadcaster into a dangerous reliance on advertising revenue that could severely undermine its editorial independence and public mandate. The minister's failure to prioritize the SABC bill, which proposes alternative funding models, is a glaring omission on the annual performance plan. This delay leaves the broadcaster in financial peril. The SABC bill must be fast-tracked, and without it, the broadcaster's future may be uncertain. The ANC's positions on ICASA's role in this matter is unequivocal. Our independent regulator must be allowed to perform its duties without political interference, applying the law equally to all participants. Attempts to undermine ICASA's authority in the Starlink case may set a dangerous precedent that could unravel years of careful policy development aimed at creating a more inclusive digital economy. We cannot, Honorable Chairperson, allow our regulatory framework to be cherry-picked based on which companies have most political connections or international backing. The minister's approach to Starlink reveals the fundamental disregard for the principle of equality before the law, a principle that is foundational in any democratic society. The betrayal of our sovereignty doesn't end here, Honorable Chairperson. There is a systematic effort to dismantle CETA through policy directives aimed at ensuring private sector entities handle the procurement of sensitive ICT equipment. This is not only a way of undermining state agency, but it is a long-term privatization strategy of key state entities. The minister must prioritize the ECA amendment bill process without further hesitation, ensuring that it aligns with South Africa's transformative agenda of equitable access and digital justice. We cannot afford to keep kicking this legislative reform down the road. South Africa's digital future depends on bold, decisive action now. As the African National Congress, we remain committed to digital transformation, which is rooted in the Freedom Charter's promise that the people shall share in the country's wealth. In the digital age, this means ensuring that the benefits of technological progress are distributed equitably, rather than being hoarded by a privileged few. It means protecting and promoting local content in our indigenous languages, thereby preventing our cultural sovereignty from being eroded by global platforms. Despite the DA's obstruction, the ANC remains committed to advancing transformative policies that will create a genuinely inclusive digital economy. We will continue to push for a modernized ICT laws and prioritize Black economic participation. We will fight to protect ICASA's independence and ensure it regulates without fear or favor. We will demand urgent action on rural connectivity and digital literacy programs. We will also expose and oppose any attempts to sell our digital sovereignty to foreign interests. The upcoming national dialogue presents a critical opportunity for South Africans. Yet the DA's petulant decision to boycott the process revealed their true character as nothing more than crybabies who would rather sulk on the sidelines than engage in the meaningful solutions. Honorable Chairperson, as the ANC, we will not be crybabies. We will support this project and this budget, Minister, not because you are doing a great job, but because we need to do a great job for South Africans and provide a digital economy. It is for this reason that the ANC will support this budget with the recommendation of the committee. Ngiyabonga and thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Final speaker in the debate. Thank you, Honourable Members. The final speaker in the debate will be the Honourable Minister of Communications and Technologies.
Chair, order.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister.
Chair.
Well, Honorable Minister, will you just take a seat? I have a hand. Yes,
Yes,
ma'am. Member, what do you want to be recognized?
Chair, we're expecting the minister also to attack the ANC because it's clear they are fighting.
This is
Big
not a
fight.
point of order. Thank you very much.
She is fighting,
Minister,
Minister, fight
please
back.
proceed. Honorable Minister, you may proceed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, House Chair, and to the members of the Portfolio Committee. It is very clear that there have been two different approaches to the response to the budget. One by those who have played an active role in the work of the Portfolio Committee, reflected in some of the substantive input that they have made. And for that, we want to thank the parties that have supported this budget. Yours didn't. Yours didn't. And we also want to take note because we understand that this supporting the budget also comes with a difficulty of finding sources of conflict to then deal with the response to that. Be that as it may, I thought there were some key inputs that ought to be responded to. One is this fictional battle that is being drawn about being anti-transformation or not. And it's important that we deal with the facts. And I thought for my fellow honorable colleague, Honorable Subrathi, that it is mindful to also reflect on the president's newsletter that reflected on the equity equivalent programs. And it says, some in the public space have recently sought to suggest that the EIPs represent a circumvention of BBBEE laws and that it's a response to the conditions of a particular company or sector. Neither are factually correct. Firstly, the EIPs is not new and has been in existence for a debate. That captures that it cannot be correct that it is attributable to be an onslaught on transformation when it is a further entrenchment of what the transformation laws of the country seeks to achieve. But I always enjoy the robust engagements with Honorable Subrathi. Honorable Thambo, I take note of your consistency with regards to advocacy on data costs and lowering them. And I thought the contribution to ICASA is very important because in there it empowers it to continue with the proactive interventions that are needed to drive lower data costs. And on that note, I would have expected that as difficult as it is to support the budget, you'd at least support that intervention. Thanks very much, House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. And thank you to all the members for participating. That concludes the debate and the business of this mini plenary session. The mini plenary will now rise. Thank you.